Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Human to Heaven, the experience. I'm Jessica Iris, your hostess. Today, as promised, we're going to be talking about feathers and the presence of angels. So, if anybody has experienced angels or the presence of angels or anything like that of the supernatural, please feel free to leave a comment and tell us about your experience. I always love to hear how God communicates with us and shows us that He's real and that we aren't alone and that the angels are here with us. So it's real exciting for me, and I love this story. I hope you enjoy it. So, oh, I wanted to show you my necklace. I wear this all the time. Of course, it's a feather, and yeah, it's very special, important to me. So, a couple years ago, I got a phone call from a friend that I had met 20 years ago. Okay. So when we talk about God's plan and why things happen, and this is kind of a story that intermingles with that. I met this friend through another friend. Never exchanged phone numbers. Only saw him, in social outings. Um, just was just kind of an acquaintance type person. Very nice. Great company. Good to be around. Uh, and A couple years ago, I see this Facebook post about his father was being transitioned to hospice. And if anybody knew anything about hospice, please contact him. I immediately hit that inbox and said, please call me. And he called me right away. We discussed everything that I do, everything in our lives that have been, had transpired over the past 20 years and everything that we had been gone through. Um, and then he started telling me about his dad. And so he wasn't, into God and didn't want to hear about it and wasn't real religious or anything like that. So uh, this particular client had glioblastoma, which is brain cancer. And brain cancer, um, you know, takes a toll on different parts of our brain, and it makes them say things, do things that they normally wouldn't do, causes paranoia, confusion, outbursts, a lot of different things would make behavior change in a way that they just normally wouldn't act. And so we agreed to have this client, and I went and met him at the hospital, and he moved in. I believe it was the next day or the following day. He came to the Vivian H. Walker Hospice House, and the care was going good. We talked a lot. We got everything set up the way it needed to be for him to be comfortable. Um, Anytime I would talk about God, you know, and he was kind of rough and gruff, but I loved that about him. He had a wonderful personality, and if you met him, you just fell in love with him. He was, like I said, he was rough and gruff and stuff, but still, he had a heart of gold, and so you just couldn't help but to love him. Um, Plus, that makes my job a lot funner when you have somebody that's, it's fun to be around. But underneath all that, you could see that he did really have a heart of gold, and he was a joy to take care of. But uh, I believe he was with me for about 18 or 19 days until he passed away. And during that time, I always have 24-hour around the clock caregivers, including myself. I'm always there. And this one particular morning, my door's always open at 6 o'clock in the morning because, that's when we get our day started. Even though my doors are open 24 hours, the physical door opens at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it stays open until 10 o'clock at night. You can come anytime. And so my caregiver left in the morning. It's about 6:15, and I was just kind of acclimating myself, getting things ready for the morning. And I look down, and there's this little gray feather right next to the bed. And I was like, oh. And I walked past it a couple times. I wasn't even thinking about, and then I finally was like, well, probably should pick this up. So I picked it up and I put it on the console of the TV where the TV was. Didn't think much about it. And kind of as the day was going on, I kept thinking about this feather, and I was like, okay, Lord, what are you trying to show me? And so the client's son came over, and I said, hey, don't you think this is kind of funny? I found this feather next to your dad's bed this morning, and we're thinking, and I'm like, well, nobody was in here but me, the patient who doesn't get out of bed, and the caregiver that was here, came at like 10 o'clock at night and left at 6 o'clock in the morning. Nobody was in and out of the room or outside. How did this feather get here? So we didn't think much more about it. And a couple of days later, the client's son comes to me and he said, I was at church and we went outside to pray, and we were kind of standing in a circle, a couple of us uh, praying. And I looked down and there was a feather. And I was like, what? That's really weird. So he reaches in his pocket and he's like, yeah, I kept it. And I was like, okay. And it was a little gray feather. It's like, all right. So I took that feather and the first feather that I found and I put it up on a shelf in the client room. I have two white bookcases that go into, all the way to the floor. And I didn't think much about it after that. So a couple of days later, here's another feather. We ended up finding 5 feathers, gray, okay? 5 gray feathers. Now, at the time, my son, Calvin, the love of my life, that's another story for miracles. I'll tell you about that some other time. He loved Batman at the time, and he would come into the room and he had his little Batman cape, and my client would call him Batman. Hey, Batman. And he loved when he came in there and he called him Batman. Okay. I want you to remember the colors of Batman: black, gold, or yellow, white. Okay. Remember those colors. And so we went through this process with my client. It was extremely difficult at times because he was miserable towards the end. He always kept in good spirits. There was one time for some reason the electricity went out, and I was like, oh, this is my biggest nightmare, because he's on an air mattress, right? And so I called the electric company, and he's over there. I think at this point he understood that I'm like on it, and I'm everything has to be perfect, or like I said, I'm not a control freak. But I just like to have things right. So after like 25 minutes, the mattress is, going down in the bed, and I'm like, oh no, I got to, so me and my caregiver that was there for third shift, we put him on the Hoyer lift, we put him over into the Chase lounge, and boom, the electricity comes on. So he sat there for a few minutes while the bed came up. But I'll tell you, as I was kind of frantic, disappointed in the electric company because I'm trying to care for somebody that's in a critical position. This man showed so much compassion and love and strength. He comforted me, kept telling me, don't worry, everything's fine, I'm fine, you're fine, settle down. And through that, I started to realize what a blessing this man is as much pain as he's in, and suffering, and mentally suffering, and knowing that, the decline is getting worse, and eventually he's not going to be here. And, I'm going to be one of the last people that see him, and I'm going to be caring for him. And during all that, he just was so cool and put me together. He's like, Jess, now you just don't worry. and you just keep doing what you're doing. It'll come on when it comes on, and I'm fine, and we're fine, and you're fine. And it was kind of at that moment that I just, not that I wasn't in love with him already, but I just fell more in love with him. And it just made me realize that what a good dad he was. What a good father. Well, dad, father. What a good friend. Um, I always say that I work best under pressure, but I was kind of, like I said, losing it at that point, and he just really calmed me down and reassured me, and it was so precious. In my last video, I talked about there will be precious moments, and that was one of those precious moments where it didn't matter how sick he was. It didn't matter, none of that, much pain, none of that mattered. What mattered that was he put himself outside and was like, Jess, you're going to be okay. You're all right. And I'm all right. And so that was wonderful. But so as time went on, like I said, the decline came a little more rapidly, and um, he was bedbound, and we had, and then the sleep state came, and um, that's when I would put on real soft music. Um, he loved sci-fi, so sometimes I would put, the sci-fi channel on, and he would, and I knew he could hear. He couldn't really watch it or follow it, but I knew he could hear, and I try to make the ambiance, like I said, very peaceful and happy and comfortable for them, geared towards their needs. But I would put on Christian music, hymns, old hymns, very quiet, and it was just in the background. And his kids would come over. He had some family members come over and visit him, and you know, um, kept finding these feathers. So finally, I put them in a baggie. And I was like, we're going to keep these feathers because I think that God is sending us angels and letting us know that they're here, and they know they're going to take him home. And we just prayed for his salvation and for him to accept God and accept Christ into his life. So we will see him again in heaven. And I was in his room one day getting ready to give him some medicine, and he said, "Who is that standing behind you?" He said, "I just can't, every time you come in my room, there's that, whoever that is standing behind you." And I said, and I'm like, even though I'm no stranger to the spirit world, the supernatural things, that's a whole nother story. And I said, "Well, what do they look like?" And he said, "I can't tell you what they look like." He said, "It's really just a shadow." He said, "But it's really big and really wide." And I was like, it's an angel. I thought in my head, it's an angel. How wonderful. But I didn't want to lose my cool. I didn't want to scare him. I didn't want to. And I just thought, oh Lord, thank you. They really are here. And so I was really excited about it. And I said, I don't know, well, who does it look like to you? And so we just let it go at that. And then, like I said, as the days progressed, uh, and he got worse, and the sleep state came, and then eventually he passed. But it was wonderful, and I do believe there were so many people praying. People would come over and put their hands on him and pray. I do believe that he accepted God, and I think that he's in heaven. And I just love that fact. So the cool thing about this whole story is later on that day, after the funeral home had come and got him, now they take whatever fitted sheet is on the mattress, and then a sheet, or, we'll dress them, and then they put a sheet that's on the bed, and they wrap them up in it. They put them on the gurney, and then they take them out. So any other pillows, blankets, or anything else that he had while he's in my care stays there. So and I don't use feather pillows, and I'll tell you why when we do the video on senses and positioning, because they're too squishy. You have to have a more firm pillow, cotton, or whatever the batting is. So don't use feather pillows. This was in the summer, so nobody had to wear like a fur feather coat or hat. Um, so the next day, I got all the sheets and or the sorry, the blankets, uh, pillowcases, and everything, and I put them in the washer, put them in the dryer. Standing in my living room, and I shake the gray blanket out. 5 white feathers fell out onto the floor. 5. Remember, I told you I had 5 gray feathers that I put in a baggie on the top shelf, or one of the shelves and on the bookcase. Couldn't find it. Wasn't there. But when I shook that blanket out to fold it, all 5 feathers fell on the floor and they were white as snow. Now, you might think that's where the story ends, but it doesn't. Remember, I told you he called my son Batman. Remember the colors of Batman. A couple days later after that, Calvin was going to my mom's. I'm getting to spend the night. I'm getting the bag packed and ready. In the bottom of Calvin's book bag, overnight bag, I found a feather about this big. Black with a yellow stem or quill. Now you tell me what kind of bird has that feather, because I've never seen one. And you tell me how many times I'm in and out of that bag to pack it and to go somewhere. You know, he was only 3.5 at the time. So of course, you know, you have backup clothes, shoes, everything. Never saw that before. So that is my experience with feathers and the presence of angels. And like I said, I know Ron's in heaven. Oh, I know he's there. We are obviously, it's okay because the end of this video is going to be the tribute to Ron. He was wonderful. I love him very much. Love his family. They're all wonderful people. I hope you enjoyed this video about feathers and the presence of angels. Leave a comment about any of your experiences. I've had lots more that I'll share at a different time. But leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. If you have any questions or would like some one-on-one consultations, I have the email at the end of the whole video where you can send me a personal email and let me know what you think. Or if you, like I said, if you have any questions or need anything. I love you all so much. Thank you for joining me today. I can't wait till our next video. And you are wonderful. I love you. God loves you. You are not alone. I'm always here. You can always find me somewhere, and I will return your message. I hope you guys enjoy this short tribute to Ron. He was one of my sweet, sweet guys. Have a wonderful day.